ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः हरिः ॐ श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः हरिः ॐ right. Namaste. Suprabhatam everyone. Let's continue our sessions. Sriniji wants to start this morning with a video for discussions to ensue. Right? Want me to launch this, Maudya? Or?
Sorry, everyone. Namaskara. So please, let's start the video that I sent just now and see if it actually plays, and then everybody can hear. You'll have to share the window.
Yeah, just thinking, what's the best way to do that? Share. Okay. Okay. Let me know if you're able to see this.
I think of focus three ways. There's focus on ourselves, there's focus on the other person, and there's focus on the wider world, on the systems that we operate within. It is human nature to pay most attention to and put most importance on what the most powerful person in a group says or does. Leaders set the emotional state of other people. But once you have your strategy to execute, you can only do it through people. You have to communicate, you have to motivate, you have to listen, you have to inspire. And all of that takes emotional intelligence. If you don't have that, your strategy will go nowhere. Teams have a group emotional intelligence. The collective IQ of a team does not predict how well it will do. What predicts how well a team will do is that the best talent of each person on the team is contributed at full force. That requires harmony. That's your amygdala talking when you have that one thing that you're worried about, that you ruminate about. So the amygdala makes our attention fixate there, which is why it interferes with job performance, because we can't put our attention on what we're supposed to be doing. Cognitive control is what mindfulness strengthens. It's the ability to put your focus where you want it and keep it there. Why are people poor listeners? Because they're preoccupied, they're time pressured, they have lots to do. So someone comes in, starts talking, and the boss, for example, cuts off that person, takes over the conversation. You never hear what it is that's really on their mind. In a crisis, everyone looks to the leader to see, are we okay? If the leader is freaking out, if the leader is panicking, then people won't function at their best. It turns out the same circuitry that improves concentration and attention manages emotional hijacks. So we get triggered less, and not only are we triggered less, but if we do get upset, we recover more quickly. Achievement orientation really means goal orientation, knowing where you're going and keeping your eye on that goal despite distractions.
Okay. So, let's see. All right. So today's topic is the role of emotions. As you can see on the screen, there are waves, and there is an ocean, and there is light. But the comparison that I'm trying to make is the waves of the ocean are always compared to the emotions. And the great analogy that we keep getting whenever we look up to some of the greatest discourses on emotions is that they're compared to the surface level waves, that is the anger, fear, joy, jealousy, so on and so forth. And the mind is compared to, okay, you do have beliefs and you do have identity and of course thoughts. So these three categories together, they are referred to as mind. So once you discover, so what is underneath these emotions of anger, fear, joy, and jealousy, always it happens to be either thoughts or beliefs. And of course, even the identity is threatened, it has to result either in anger or fear. So you see that interconnection between the waves of the ocean and the middle of the ocean, and somewhere at the very deep, you do have that calmness, which is silent, stable, and unmoving. So this analogy is always given in many of the greatest discourses when it comes to emotions, beliefs, and the very self. Now that you watched the video of one of the leading psychologists, now probably in the modern world, we have many psychologists. We heard about Sigmund Freud, we heard about Carl Jung, and now there are many on the YouTube videos. Now that you watched this video, I just wanted to see what you think about the content and what you thought about his discourse on mind. So let's just start with that thing. And if you want to watch it again, that's fine, because there are certain things that are pretty subtle and really intriguing. But just if you want, if somebody has watched it and actually they could grasp it, please go ahead and then share your thoughts. So welcome. We're going to get, we'll take a deep dive, but I just wanted to touch upon the topic of emotional intelligence in that video. So so how do you read the emotion in the room? So that's the first question. And why is it that people follow the leader in the room? And let's say you walk into a room and the vibe or the energy of the room is somewhat low, or the energy of the room is somewhat chaotic. So what are you going to do? Whether you just want to play that video again? So we're going to it's just 2 minutes, so you may want to see it again. Yeah, so Chandra Mohdaya, yeah, come on over, and then if you want to summarize, that's fine too.
Yeah, I mean, again, first take is very catchy video, very nice graphics and stuff, and it directly drives the point that the center of concentration is center of emotion, and kind of tries to equate that, hey, if your emotion is disturbed, maybe you're not concentrated, right? Maybe it is trying to drive that point home, and it makes that very quickly, very directly.
Yes.
That's my take.
Mm-hmm. So, and then he also says something like, yeah, whatever the leader's emotion is, people just follow it. Why does that happen? Even in the Bhagavad Gita, we do have that verse, yad yad acharati shreshtaha tattadeva itaro janaha. Whatever the leaders, the celebrities, they do, the other people just follow it. Why does that happen? Isn't that interesting? Why? I mean, the whole room was in a totally different level of energy, but the leader walked in, but it changes. Why is that? So let's say,
They're already
yeah,
prepared mentally to receive
um,
messages.
yes, yes, that happens. And so, what's the underlying connectivity? Why do people receive? Some people well, but some don't.
Trust
So
in the
what?
leader.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Go ahead, please, Anuji.
The trust in the leader. The
Trust in
belief
the leader. Okay.
in the leader.
Many times, when a person walks in, they just look at him at the podium and they just go quiet and they just want to receive it. So at that level, at that point, the trust is not in the person, but the trust is in the place, right? The podium. That's also strange. So how mind works is very interesting. The person is on the stage and just made an eye contact and is looking at everybody. And that's it. They all want to listen to him. So they haven't seen this person. That can also happen. We all did that when we sat in school and when we were very young too. And when the teacher walked to the podium to the class signboard or whatever, right? And then as soon as the teacher walks in, and all the kids, the very very chaotic class actually became quiet. So inherently, we are capable of you know whether it is place, whether it is a person, it just doesn't matter to us, but we do place that level of trust, and somehow that trust actually leads to controlling our emotions and directing our mental energy. So this is explored in the darshanas, and to an extent that you would be really really surprised. And he also said a few more things. Anybody noticed? Or you just want to make a point? That's fine too. Before we get into this topic, so how do you read a room? I mean, have you faced that in the corporate offices? What will you do when there is a hostile group? Let's say you walked in and your product hasn't worked, right? And the customers are about to complain about it, and they just reject the sales. And has that ever happened to you? Yeah, go ahead, Darshanji.
So I think the emotion in that group might not exactly be the emotion once you go back at home. No,
Hmm.
it's everyone is agreeing on, and because during that particular uh, period you have that
Hmm.
particular emotion, but as you go back, you might have more subtle thinking, and your thinking might be different. So it could be a spur of moment
Huh?
sometimes. Uh,
Mhm.
so yeah, it's still an emotion.
Yes, and at the end of the day, all communication without emotions, there's really no communication happening, right?
Yes,
And
yes,
the communication is not happening with others or with yourself. Do you agree? Without
yeah,
emotions, no
yeah,
communication is happening. Yes,
yeah. I mean, you have to connect to a person, otherwise you wouldn't even respond, right?
yes. And can you communicate with yourself without any emotion underneath? You'll be
You
many
keep
times.
communicating with yourself for sure, always.
Mm,
Now, yeah, whether it's the emotion is involved or not,
mhm.
it could be both. Sometimes with emotions and sometimes.
So let's say you're correcting yourself about what happened yesterday. Is there an emotion involved? I'll make it more clear. Yesterday you were working in the office as an engineer, okay, and you came home and you said something to the kid, and the kid replied back, and you got angry. Oh, and the kid is not talking to you, right? So the next day, what are you when you're going through that reflection and realized that oh, it's because of my office environment and what happened there. I was just venting out on the kid. Has that happened to you?
Right. And at that point, you're more analytical. You are looking at yourself as a third person. So probably you're not as emotional as when you
Okay,
were.
but you're actually changing the roles, and you do know that when you came back, you're still an engineer when you came home, not a father. So those two roles changed. Is that right? Right. And so today, when you're reflecting back on that thing, and then you see, well, I mean, the emotions of the office work carried to home in the child's room, and so the role that was being played by the same person was still an engineer and not a father. So the role mismatch actually resulted in misapprehension or misidentification of the situation and the kid.
Correct.
So it did result in the wrong emotion or the wrong mood or whatever, right? Not the appropriate one for the situation, right? So has that happened to you? Is that possible to correct it? Because we all go through that through our repetitions, right? Almost everyone has gone through this thing. And suppose something happened at home, maybe just before you went to work, and something happened at home. Maybe the maid servant did not come or whatever, right? Or your internet is not working, and then you left home. So you're in the car, and the emotion is still there. Is it possible to have that level of residual anger when you're driving?
Yeah, that always happens. It's like
Yeah.
human mind is not able to compartmentalize, and so uh, it carries on. And sometimes, there is a person with whom you had a very bad fight,
Hmm.
and in general, that person is nice, but on that particular topic. So even though you know that that person is nice, but then your relation or communication with that person might be different
Hmm.
after that incident. So
Okay.
yeah, these are two things. Like at home, also it might affect because you're still carrying on whatever that has happened.
So, has anyone followed the very recent incident on the AI summit in Delhi? One of the professors, who happens to be the head of the communications, she actually talked about one of the innovations that she thought was made by the university. Has anyone followed it? It became viral. Do you know about that?
Yeah, it essentially she claimed that it was from the university, but it was actually a Chinese-made robot, and then
Okay.
they launched that entire investigation and stuff.
Yes. Yes, Ajay ji. Okay. So, what do you think about her? Yeah, can you just what you said? I mean, what did she say, and can you update others on what act what she was thinking when she was saying those things?
I believe that she said that, oh, look at our spirit of innovation. We can even do this here. But basically, and she was very emotionally charged at that time and she was making that claim, but then it turned out it wasn't. And then she came back and I believe she did apologize for making
Hmm.
that statement, but then the government said that they're going to investigate why even this claim came about.
Yeah, but she made one statement and then said that well, she's very good in communication. She's amazing when it comes to words, and that's what you see it on LinkedIn profile. And then she says it's extremely rare that she would go wrong, and she would still stand by the same thing because development means different to different people. Your 6 is my 9. That is how she said it. And the very next day she lost her job. This was a person who was in charge of I think she was communications in Department of Communication, the spokesperson, and with an MBA. On the LinkedIn profile, she has been a debater, she has been a communicator, and it was more of word of she's like the queen of words or something like that on those lines. So people claim all of these things, and they think they are communication experts. It happens in corporate offices, it happens in leadership forums, it happens in what you call communication workshops, and they all are trainers, they are all leaders, and they claim to train people on how to speak well. And you've seen many debating clubs, and there are many debating forums in schools, in colleges, and many places. But where do people see? And oh, well, one of the most interesting examples that you can find is the CEOs and the politicians who speak a lot, right, on stage. When do they face problems? Most of the times. While communicating, right? They said something and they couldn't stand by it. And that's how they keep experiencing the same problems in what they claim to be having expertise at. And why does that happen? And the same people, many times, in the family or maybe in the friendships, there is a pattern of the behavior. So they get stuck in the same kind of issues for the same reasons too. But they all happen to have excellent educational background, and many times you do find them very verbally intelligent. In order to understand more about that, the Indian darshanas and the shastras have explored at very deep levels. And let's see. Now you can see the slide here. Is it visible?
Yes, Mahodaya.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. All right. So we are going to the next one. In order to understand the role of emotions, they ask some strange questions. Are you the wave? So one of you just keep answering. Are you the wave? Let's say in everyday speech, you do say that I am sad, I am angry. Do you have anger or you are angry? Which one is true? Do you have the anger emotion or you are angry? Which one is true? Or do they mean the same?
You're angry.
Is it true? Or you have anger?
You have anger.
You have anger.
Yes, you have anger.
You have anger.
So it is all about having
is
that.
all about having-
So why am I listening to myself? Okay. So you are not the emotion. Similarly, is the ocean the wave? The ocean is not the wave, but waves are part of the ocean, right? So let's imagine yourself to be the ocean, and the emotions are just like waves. They come and go. They have a beginning and an end. Oh, how do you know? That's in your experience. That's the nature of emotions. You're not always 24 by 7 angry. You're never 24 by 7 calm. You're never 24 by 7 sad. You're never 24 by 7 joyful. So they're all transitory, and the emotions have a beginning and an end. They come and go, they come and go. And that's the nature of emotions. That is why they are compared to waves. But the identity, I am angry, I am sad, I am joyful, I am an engineer, I'm a father, I'm a husband, I'm a wife, and all these labels are simply, attaching to an identity which is none of these, just like the deep ocean. You can see that, can waves exist without water? No, they're all water. Substratum is the same. But when it comes to the form, there are waves on the surface, there are undercurrents in the middle of the ocean, and then there is this deep, calm ocean. But they're all water, and the names and the forms keep changing as and when you identify different portions of the same ocean. That, in the deep ocean, the middle of the ocean, or the surface, the forms have changed. So the waves cannot exist without the ocean. The ocean cannot exist without the waves. Right. So when it comes to this analogy, how each darshana sees it. When it comes to Vaisheshika, which is identifying the properties and substances, for them, the wave is a real property. It exists. Right? So the Vaisheshikas, the emotion is a real property. Property of what? It's a property of the soul, or the consciousness, or the conscious being. Nyaya, waves arise because of causes. It's the same thing, but they do recognize the waves and they try to find the cause. And the cause happens to be wind, for the ocean, but understanding, which is called the cognition in philosophical term, or cognition, which can be correct or which can be wrong. If it's a wrong cognition, it results in wrong emotions. So which has to be fixed. So that is the position which Nyaya takes. Mimamsa, whether waves are calm or not, the ship must still follow its route. So which is duty. It just doesn't matter whether it is your mind is disturbed or not. Discipline to carry out the rituals every day at the same time, it is super important, and you can't have dual opinions about it. You have to do what you got to do. And the Sankhya takes the position, well, that is the only philosophy that starts off with, oh, the depth is different, and that is not the waves. So the depth, which is silent, calm, and undisturbed, irrespective of what is happening at the surface, is the Purusha. What is happening in contact with the wind, right? That is the wave, and that is in the dance of the Prakriti. Even though Purusha is at the very bottom, it's undisturbed, and that is the position Sankhya takes. Yoga is all about, hey, these waves can be handled, can be calmed. Your emotions can be calmed. Your thoughts can be controlled. That is the position of yoga. And the Vedanta says even the ocean and water distinction, they all dissolve in the ultimate reality, that is water, right? And the waves of the ocean or the depth of the ocean, they're not non-dual. They are just water. The essence is the same. And another Vedantic position, it's like, which we call Vishishtadvaita. Waves are part of the ocean. They're quantitatively different, but qualitatively same. So this is what darshanas are taking. So you take an analogy and you look at the lens of the darshana, and that's what you see. And you see that they are not contradicting, but they are complementary. So how do they define when it comes to emotions? Do they recognize, and what is the opinion that they have? So Nyaya says these are real qualities. Emotions are real qualities of the Atman, that is the self. Self has these qualities. You see, Nyaya is not Advaita or anything. Nyaya is like, it is, reality is plural. It's pluralism and realism. So that is Nyaya. That is the position it is taking. It's arising from these emotions are the results of cognition. Information entered, and the Atman had this guna, right? And then it comes to your speech or your actions because of cognition. That is the contact with the Vishayas. Vaisheshika is about, these are all real qualities, and they are in the self, existing all the time. So Nyaya and the Vaisheshika combined, they took the same position. Sankhya is all about, we have trigunas, which is sattva, rajas, tamas. Where it is the combination of the rajas and the tamas which creates that imbalance. That imbalance is what causes emotions, and sattva is all about balancing the rajas and the tamas. And that is that sattva, when sattva dominates, and the rajas and the tamas are to be subordinated to sattva. Otherwise, they result in emotions and they result in dukkha or suffering. Yoga is all about, they do recognize vrittayaha panchatayaha klishtaha aklishtaha. So says Patanjali. They're all mental fluctuations. Some are complex, some are not. And the kleshas, or the afflictions, these are the ones that have to be managed and controlled. So that's the position of yoga through disciplined action. So Mimamsa does recognize, but they are not, the emotions are not central to Mimamsa at all. It's all about you ought to do. So the action is central to Mimamsa. And the emotion that drives is purely kama or desire. Desire can be in terms of instinctual inclinations or the wants and needs, even the motivation for an action. They're all grouped together in kama, the desire. And that one emotion, which is fundamental, basal, that drives action. It is action that is important, and that is what Mimamsa takes. That is the position of Mimamsa. The Vedanta is the one which takes the holistic view of, all of these emotions are nothing but products of avidya, not knowing the self, the ignorance, and misidentification, that is, with roles, things, and qualities. So I am angry. Instead of recognizing that I have an emotion called anger, I am an engineer. Instead of focusing on the reality that you play the role of an engineer, I am a father. Not recognizing the fact that you play the role of a father only at home, not elsewhere. So the roles the identification, the egoic identification with the roles, thoughts, and emotions. That is avidya, and that leads to suffering. And being, being you do know that that I remains the same. An identification with body or mind is the cause of all suffering. Right? So that is the position Vedanta takes, and they all talk about resolutions. All right. Now you see the six darshanas and how they identify the cause, the bondage, and the release. So something happened at work, and the boss said something, and I feel something, and that is carried to home or maybe another friend's place or whatever. So there is that bondage going on, that binding, that attachment to to that emotion, right? And that misidentification is still all over the places, and that is affecting both words and actions. So you see that there is this ocean, and you do see all of these boats, and these boats are the darshanas. They're helping you navigate this ocean of samsara, and these waves are all emotions. So Nyaya is identifying the cause as, if you think wrongly, that results in all these emotions. Right? And what are these emotions? We'll talk about it, but it's the framework. Right? If you wrong thinking leads to, gives rise to these emotions that will bind you. Vaisheshika is all about the karma, the contact, the contact with with nature, with all the panchabhutas, that can result in these kinds of emotions, because they're all qualities and they just come to, so one becomes dominant, the other one does not. And the Sankhya is about misidentification. The Purusha misidentifies with Prakriti. See, we don't have the concept of Prakriti in Nyaya. Right? They're all 16 padarthas, and Prakriti is just one. Just to touch upon this thing, for the Nayayika, or for the logician, there is no such thing as one cause leading to many effects. Okay. For example, Sankhya says Prakriti is the cause of suffering because it has, three gunas is what constitutes the Prakriti, or the nature, and which is the disposition of the mind, and that imbalance creates that suffering, the imbalance of rajas, tamas, and sattva. And though the Nayayika, if they were to argue with the Sankhya's, they would say, "Oh, from our experience, we do know that one cause leads to one effect, and I can trace it back. The effect leads back to the cause, and then I do know that from my experience and my examples and all that, we cannot see something called as prakriti, and it cannot have all kinds of effects in one unity. So unity or unification does not result in pluralism. It should have the plural causes and the plural effects, plurality of causes and plurality of effects. Therefore, they believe in the nanatmavada, meaning there are many souls. It's not just one, or it's multiplicity of conscious beings. Sankhya is about the unity of Prakriti, and the emotions exist in the Atman for Nyaya. For Sankhya, it exists in the Prakriti. You see, the location of the emotions are different for Nyaya and the Sankhya. And similarly, Vedanta too. Vedanta holds that the emotions are not part of the Atman. They're all part of the nature. Because how do they identify? What is permanent is the conscious being. What is impermanent is the modifications of the Prakriti. So they do, Sankhya is very much part of the Vedanta position, but said it in a different way. So look at the yoga. Yoga is about avidya, right? And then the mimamsa is the motivation or the desire or the karma that results in the cycle of actions. So Vedanta is about the ignorance of the self. So that is the causal layer that you're seeing. So next comes the bondage, or what actually happens with the emotion. Nyaya recognizes that the attachment with the emotion is what actually causes bondage. And Vaisheshikas, well, qualities have they're like the chemicals, right? And without the chemicals of the ocean, there are no waves and there's no depth, and the dynamics of the ocean is the very nature of the ocean, and therefore you do see all these effects and causes. So it's all about what exists and what are the qualities. So the qualities of emotions is to bind. So that causes bondage or suffering. And the Sankhya is the moment you misidentify, and you're not the, if you're not the Sakshya, the Purusha, if you think that you are the Prakriti, you do suffering. That confusion or the misidentification itself is the cause. And yoga does recognize that the mental agitation or the avidya is what actually leads, and yoga is all about practices. You should be able to regulate your emotions, and there are certain practices, and the practices are what the focus of the yoga. And the mimamsa is all about don't worry about who shot the arrow, or what is the pain level of the wound. And all these things are not necessary, because the person has to be treated, and the treatment is nothing but the action, and that action is nothing but the ritual. And this is the ritual, and the swarga prapti is the goal, and you have to do what you got to do. The action is the centrality of actions. They're all about do. And desire or the karma itself results in many multifold modifications. So therefore, that is not what you need to focus on. It's simply the action, the conviction to carry out the action. That is it. That itself is enough to get rid, to transcend the suffering that you experience because of emotions. And Vedanta is all about, well, you do have the karma, have the desire. And what is desire? Ishta prapti, anishta nasha is jivanam. Ishta prapti, getting what you want. Anishta nasha, getting rid of what you don't want, is life. And there are two sides of the same coin. And that is, I want what I don't have is the desire. I want what is not present is the desire. I don't want to lose what I have. Okay, that is fear. So there are two sides of the same coin. And release from this bondage is the resolution. And they all talk about, if you learn the methods of thinking, that's enough for Nyaya. If you learn the process of Viveka, to know that the imbalance of the trigunas, and to know that the Purusha is different from Prakriti, to look at and taking the help of Prakriti to see the reality of the Purusha, that Viveka will give you the release or the moksha. And they are all talking about the freedom from emotions and nothing that as you can see, freedom from your own emotions. It's all inward journey at the end of the day. They all talk about the contact with the world and how the reality operates. But when it comes to freedom, they're talking about the inward journey. And yoga is all about practices. And Mimamsa is about the discipline duty of the rituals, which is dharma. It is not about the abhyasa. It's about the dharma itself, which is actually considered dharma. That's different, but the subtle difference when it comes to comparative philosophy is that discipline duty of the dharma is a core of Mimamsa, which relieves you from all the suffering, and the self-knowledge to know oneself, that what is permanent, what is not, and to abide in the witness of all that is happening, whether it is life, roles, things, or events. The person that is going through that experience hasn't changed. He might have changed the body, she or she might have changed the body from birth to old age to death, but the person who experienced it hasn't changed. Like the person doesn't change, but the clothes keep changing every day. So that awareness, being in that mode of self-awareness, so that is release, and that is mukti. So at this point, any more questions?
May not be a question, but a point. So the middle row, right? The bondage. At least, I kind of understand that the bondage gets reinforced through raga and dvesha, right? As in your desire towards something or away from something that kind of reinforces the bondage over and over.
Yes, correct. Raga and dvesha, yes, totally. So we do have that thing, right, as the comparative flow. So at the very basal end, pain and pleasure. That is what all living beings experience: pain and pleasure. That pain and pleasure, the pleasure results in the desire, and the pain is analogous to aversion, or raga and dvesha, desire and aversion. And there are basal emotions, that there are derived emotions. Raga and dvesha can be in the krodha and irsha, and all of those things will come. So they're all derived emotions. And what happens in communication? Nyaya identifies that there will be a logical distortion when that happens. When you're not either if you haven't learned or improved your jnana through nyaya, logical distortion is inevitable in speech. So let's take this example because it's a little too philosophic. We'll take an example of so you all learned about jalpa and vitanda. So what do you think about jalpa and vitanda? So jalpa, here's the thing, right? So we did have chala, jalpa, and vitanda. So we talked about all the, I guess, yeah, we talked about this, and then when it came to jalpa, vitanda, chala, and all these things, there are debating types, three main debating types, which is vada, chala, and vada, jalpa, and vitanda. So jalpa and vitanda are extremely common in this world. And Nyaya holds that Jalpa and Vitanda are adharmic. It's Vada that is dharmic. Do you agree? Because the whole world is, it's engaged in Jalpa and Vitanda, right? Which actually means that you have to qualify an adhikari for Vada. You have to see whether the recipient is actually capable of holding a meaningful discussion with you, a meaningful debate with you. If the person on the other side is already has preconceived notions. How many of you actually watched the Frisco debate recently, or Frisco mockery in Dallas? Do you know about that? Oh, okay, yeah. Akshayji. Okay, go ahead, please.
It's
What happened?
basically
Mhm.
somebody just have one thought process. They just want that to be imposed on everybody, but they're not receptive of the
Yeah.
core ideas, and they don't want to rethink about it, even if somebody is ready to explain that, in a particular
Yes.
manner to convince it, but they have already uh, make assumptions, so they're just gonna say that and close it the task.
So this person said it, and the city council allowed it, right? And oh, so what is the method that he used to express his point of view? What is the method?
Uh, n- no, I'm not getting it. What is the method means?
Method. What did he say? Did he use nyaya? Did he use chala, jalpa, vitanda, vada? What did he use?
I think he was into Jalpa state because
Uh, okay.
he don't want it to. Yeah, when you're in a debate, you should be able to listen to other side of it and try to see if there is a common grounds. But I couldn't feel that in that way. Yeah.
So there was no common ground, and so there were other people doing jalpa, but the person who actually launched a mockery session, right?
Yeah.
So the mockery was purely it was to destroy the other person. So the idea that he used was mockery, a type of humor, which is humor only for your side, not to the other side, right? So that keeps happening to show the other person the place.
Yeah.
It's I am superior, you are inferior,
You are inferior. Yeah.
inferior, and so that ego is hidden. You are not going to say it directly that I am
Yeah.
superior, you're inferior. You use mockery, uh, so that the third party or your side will see the humor, but not the person who's actually receiving it, because he'll be hurt. He or she will be hurt, right? That's mockery, and it is
Mhm.
engaged. It's a type of vitanda, but launching mockery. So what? So the world is, you know, it's highly relative, and they're not at the same level. So therefore, the adhikaris are different. So can you engage in vada with them? Can you have a truth-seeking debate with such people?
I
Uh,
mean, if they are
Jalpa is,
receptive enough,
somebody is asking Rudra Singh ji. Jalpa is all about vada is truth-seeking debate. Jalpa is a victory-oriented debate. Okay, and so victory-seeking debate. Uh, so Vitanda is destroy the opponent debate. I am not going to establish my position, but I know so many faults at your end. I'm going to expose you. Okay, so that is Vitanda. But you do see Jalpa and the Vitanda happening all in all the places. What do you think of presidential debate? Are they Vada, Jalpa, or Vitanda? So Nyaya holds that only Vada is dharmic, not Jalpa or Vitanda, right? It's all Jalpa, correct? It's all Jalpa. You gotta win. Or sometimes Vitanda too. So Jalpa is what you see in the world. So now Nyaya has this idealistic position. Only Vada is dharmic and everything else is adharmic. So it's the highest level of communication, right? But what does Bhagavad Gita say? It's a Vedantic position, right? What does Bhagavad Gita say? Would Krishna say Jalpa and Vitanda are adharmic and therefore never use them?
I think he says recognize where you are, I believe. When can someone elaborate on that? I forget. But you have to be smart, for lack of a better word.
That's situational awareness, contextual awareness, and see the adhikari. That person qualified for the requirements of Vada? Or this person is qualified for Jalpa? Or is this person qualified only for Vitanda? If he is engaging in Vitanda and how, so this is well, the Vedantic position is not to put it in black and white and then say, oh, they don't take the Nayayika position saying that only Vada is dharmic. They do recognize that Vada is a great thing to happen. It's very idealistic in a world where the adhikaris have to be qualified. So Vedantins, if you see, even though they appear idealistic, but they are more practical, aren't they? When it comes to Nayayikas, except Vada, everything else is adharmic and it will lead to suffering anyways. If you are engaging in Jalpa, you're engaging in Vitanda, it's all, you're getting into more and more suffering. Right? But for the purpose of dharma, is Jalpa and Vitanda are used. And you do it with a sense of detachment. So that is still dharmic. And you don't identify yourself with the victory of the debate. So detachment, it's not so you see that Nyaya is highly procedural. So yoga too. I mean, the practice is very, very important for yoga. And you want to expand on that, to the Senji?
Yeah, since I'm curious about this, so yoga has it says when with the person, depending on the person, what you can have, and if it's somebody who is cruel or evil intentioned, you have upeksha, which is you just stand aside, don't engage, because karmically you will get spun into it and it'll spiral you down. You're going to get nothing out. However, that my curiosity is of course, with yoga you are aiming for moksha, so you are not actually going to concerned about the world or whatever. However,
Yes.
I think it doesn't make a complete position in practical life, because you can't just keep walking away from that. So I wanted, Srinji, if you can expand on that especially with these things, what are the various positions when you get into such situations? Because I think I'm of the opinion you must face it in whatever way. A disengaged vada or disengaged thing could be good, or a situational awareness. So could you please expand on that whole approach of how and where, when to engage?
So the simplest analogy to give is, and this is answered by I think Uddhava asks a lot of questions on that thing, and Krishna answers it. It's like the analogy is like that of a swimmer. The water is the samsara, okay, and the swimmer is the jiva. You can only swim if you embrace water and then push it back. That is when you're at the top of the water. Right? When you keep doing that thing, embracing and pushing it back, embracing and pushing it back, that is when you actually transcend or move to the other end of the shore. Right? If you don't do that, if you simply stand still and not engage with the world of the samsara, and if you don't push it back, so you are going to be submerged and drowned, basically, right? So this is So you are getting into the samsara, and then you suffer immense. The suffering is immense if you don't involve. Involve, but do not indulge. So that is the nuance. So in the Vedantic position, not nivritti, a complete nivritti like the sannyasa, but it comes at various different stages. Nivritti is highly valued, but the loka sangraha is even more valued. So involving in a way that is contextual. Your question is specifically towards what will you do with the person who actually can damage your reputation or your well-being if you engage with such a person. So what to do in it, right? Is that a real question there? Is upeksha the upeksha with a with an anadhikari? Is that absolute? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, no, actually, it's a bigger question. A lot of people nowadays, it's good when sometimes also fashionable to study yoga, and they all want to say, "Oh, I'm nivritta. I will just step aside." But I think it's a little hypocritical. You cannot do that if you're karmically not in the position to do nivritti. You're not ready. You're not in vanaprastha or sannyasta ashram. So I think you can't just blindly say you can just do yoga everywhere and anytime, which is become fashionable. And I think that's where I was coming at, is to look at other sources. And I will look up at Uddhav Gita and Bhagavad Gita, right? You said where we should look at it, because the concern is that I want to be ultimately aligned. So
Yeah.
even if whatever I do, because it feels like a choice. If I do only yoga, then I have a choice whether I do this yoga prescription or I don't.
See, the thing is,
Which
because in this circumstance, in this class, we are supposed to take all perspectives, not just one. Right? I can't say, oh, only Vedanta is the position and that is the only valid, but let's consider all other positions too. And let's look at it and see if we can actually infer from these positions. Before I go there, anybody else has an opinion on that one? All right. Okay. So let's go to this thing and then see if we have.
Sorry, just took me a minute to unmute. Yeah, and I agree with what Sanjay is saying. I think even at least my understanding of Bhagavad Gita is you cannot not be doing karma, right? Even the very act of breathing is also karma. So you cannot be
Not
so
engaged.
disengaged all along, as long you are aware that the action is different from you, and the emotions are different from you. That developing that awareness is important, but you cannot be so disengaged all the time. Is my understanding. I agree with what Sanjay say.
Yeah. So even disengagement is also an action, according to Gita, right? I mean, not doing is also an action. And that's the wrong action.
Yeah.
Right? Okay, let's see. And we had this, okay. So basal emotions across 6 darshanas. We'll consider all of them. Right? It's the raga and the dvesha. So that is addressed by Nyaya and Vaisheshika together. And the release is the right knowledge. Right? Knowledge is the jnana. So Nyaya, through Nyaya, what do you get is the right knowledge, the right cognition of the jnana. And so you can transcend it and you can do the dukkha nivritti, or you'll come out of suffering. So right method, and if you engage in the vada and understand all the substances of the padarthas, and that knowledge itself, so what is reality, what is this world made up of, and how to use the epistemology and the logic, or the if my thinking is based on the pramanas and is not of I'm not engaging in the jalpa, vitanda, chala, or the nigrahasthanas and engaged in the vada, which results in the knowledge of the truth, then I get moksha. So I come out of this raga and the dvesha, right? And Sankhya has this position of it's the viveka, it's the discrimination. When you have to get both rajas and tamas under the control of sattva, and if there's only rajas and tamas and only two, there's the balance is possible, but the world is not like that. We have experienced that whenever there is, it's the imbalance is caused by three components anywhere, right? So this component goes on to the right or to the left, and then there is imbalance, right? Therefore, it's the balance of the gunas that is important. When they're balanced and under the control of sattva, you're well taken care and everything is under control. And yoga is all about the practice, and then the emotional, analysis of the emotions and how to transcend them. So is addressed by Nyaya. And Sankhya is about, you recognize that the emotional imbalance exists and how to balance it in such a way that it is not in too much of rajas or tamas. So that is, if you're in the sattvic mode, you're relieved of suffering. You will be, and because it helps you to recognize the true self, which you are consciousness and not the prakriti. And then yoga is all about as long as you're practicing it and then regulate your emotions, you will not suffer. But cultivation of this practice, the abhyasa, it'll relieve you. And this is the basal emotion. We are talking only about the basal emotion is moha and the bhaya, attachment and the fear. And everything else, all other emotions are simply derived. Okay, they're all secondary emotions. So we are talking about the root emotions, what is addressed, and they take the roots out and so that you don't suffer. And the Mimamsa is all about, hey, there's only one basal emotion, that is kama. And through disciplined rituals, we get rid of all of that. And desire and fear, kama and the bhaya, okay, which is the root of all these emotions. With self-knowledge, we get rid of them, and then so you'll be able to sail. So this is the position, this is the commonality across all six darshanas. As you can see that the derived emotions are on the third column for all these darshanas. The basal emotions are recognized in the second one. That is what you saw in the picture. But you do see the effect in communication. So logical distortion in case of Nyaya, because emotions are not taken care or addressed, and reactive or confused speech because of Sankhya. No, if you don't address it, the egoic reactive behavior when the guna imbalance happens, and the turbulence is addressed through yogic practices. And the Mimamsa, you see that the communication breakdown column has something called as instrumental speech. Right? What it means is your speech is not. So when you have a goal to accomplish for the next week, a release has to be made, or some disease has to be gotten rid of. There is a certain kind of speech which is goal oriented, not truth oriented, but simply driven for results. Right. So this is it's maybe persuasive. It can even be inspiring, and all of that is because of it is driven by desire or kama. So as you can see in the Mimamsa, they see only kama as the basal emotion. So everything that needs to be everything else, all these rituals are simply instrumental to accomplish the desire. Okay, so that is why it is called. If it is not refined, it simply becomes a method, maybe even to deceive. If the rituals are not followed, they don't follow the rhythm. If you don't follow the rituals or the the Veda directed rituals, to be precise. Okay, so Yagadireva Dharma is the position of the Mimamsa. In the Vedanta, uh, through ignorance, you will have, it results in desire and fear, which is nothing but anger and grief in terms of emotions that are experienced, and that results in egoic defensive speeches. You will never be able to. The moment you have anger or grief, there's no way you can see reality. You can see the truth, because you would only see it, through your own lens, which is the anger lens or the grief lens, the victimhood, or injustice has occurred to me. So indignation. You would see everything in terms of indignation and grief. Therefore, all thought process is simply to preserve that ego. This is a lot more denser slide, but we can come to it in case there are questions. But just wanted to touch upon the idea of Adhikari Beda, and this is where even some of the questions were in this realm. You do see that all of these darshanas have they need qualified audience. This is analogized to a mountain. It's a gradation of seekers, and what kind of seekers and teachings are more Shastric terms here. But what it means in reality, in this real world, in today's modern world, is the audience should be qualified at a very level. Through our own observation and our own experience, we do people engaged in action-oriented seeking, right? What should I do in order to get X? What should I do in order to get Y? What should I do in order to get rid of Z, right? So these are the kind of questions, and it's all about I need actionable items because I got to do something. So these are all coming from an action-oriented seeker, and that is the adhikari. And for them, dharma, karma, rituals, mimamsa, karma yoga, they're all applicable. Right? And so action-oriented seeker, is climbing up in terms of progress. So they are still in the realm of dharma, karma, ritual, and all that, which will purify further, and that adhikari becomes a reflective seeker. Right? Is more of a seeker who is somewhat in an inward journey. So they are more into nyaya, vaisheshika, sankhya, yoga, because analysis is important to this person. Discrimination or the viveka is super important, and how to discipline the mind. This is what this adhikari is qualified for. Adhikari is the person, it reflects on the depth of understanding that he is ready to receive, and the mental tendency. So once that chitta sanskara happens, when that clarification, when the mind is cleared, and that person is able to receive a lot more insight into their own beings, that is when they are qualified for the teachings of Vedanta. Or it's not that you can't sit. You can sit in all these sessions, but that insightful realization actually happens. It's that experience happens when you have transcended the level of a reflective seeker and you're in the mode of a contemplative seeker. So everything is about seeking here, not about believing, if you see. Okay, it's not, we are not athato brahma jignasa. It is all for the jignasus. Jnatum ichha, that is the seeker of knowledge only. It is not for the person who has known it, or not for the believers at all. All six darshanas are for the seekers, and the Vedanta, which is at the very top of self-realization, is for the non-dual insight. Right? And Brahma Satyam Jagan Mithya. So that is the realization that they're talking about. And this adhikari bheda can be applied to every realistic situation, social situations, corporate situations, familial situations, and even debating situations. So now, having understood the idea of bheda. Bheda is nothing but distinction. Adhikari is the qualified audience to receive your attention, your mental energy. So, in the context of communication, how do you qualify an adhikari? So, let's come back to that discussion we were having, and then Rudra Senji, do you have anything more to say now on the adhikari? How will you qualify?
No, I think it's a beautiful picture. I would say wonderful. I
Okay.
feel I am very convinced that it's not. If I want to study Vedanta, the question is, do I even qualify? And I have to find myself with humility at the level where I am in my life and operate at that level. So this is a beautiful slide. I agree with this.
That's it. So that the analogy of the hill and the adhikari, amazing. That adhikari bheda is fundamental to darshanas. The audience has to be qualified. The seeker has to be qualified. And who will qualify? The seeker himself. The action-oriented seeker will become a reflective seeker when the actions are purifying that person. Similarly, the same thought process of Nyaya and the Sankhya will purify a reflective seeker. So this it's a gradation, and that being aware of that gradation of the qualified audience or the adhikari in every situation. If you have that, you have viveka. With the viveka, the discernment, you will be able to handle life situations.
I'm curious if so you've shown the levels. If you, I don't take too much time, but how would you apply a criteria if I want to sort of assess someone, right? Because everyone has to be claiming, oh, I'm doing yoga, I want moksha, whatever. Everybody and the grandmother want to be pretty on the top of the mountain, but they're not.
I've seen
So,
people simply being born in India, born in Bharat is enough for them to claim that they know everything about Vedanta. They know. Yeah. I mean,
so,
yeah, they think so. Yes.
but how would you have you thought about like if I were to assess, like you were saying back to if you're assessing who the person doing vad is, what could be some sort of hallmarks to sort of peg them based on their behavior and life situation and mentality that no, this person would be sitting around here rather than the other way. So obviously for the Vedantin, it would be like a
And
person who displays that behavior.
the text that I've seen, best one for this thing is Jivan Mukti Viveka. Jivan Mukti Viveka, or the liberation of the embodied, liberation in embodied, liberation of the embodied soul. So that is the translation. Jivan Mukti Viveka. While living, how do you get liberated? Is the simple title written by Vidyaranya, who established the Vijayanagara Empire. He talks about the gradation, the evolution of a conscious being at every level. And he has given the qualities of such person in the path of evolving consciousness. That is how you identify a Uttama Adhikari, a Madhyama Adhikari, and a Adhama Adhikari. Adhama is the lowest Adhikari, Madhyama, the medium one, and the top one, the Uttama Adhikari. So there is an entire framework for the Adhikaris. Yeah. And that's why the text is a Shastric text, the big one. Jivan Mukti Viveka. Translated by Ramakrishna Ashrama. Wonderfully translated, actually. Yeah. But it's an entirely, totally different session. I think it requires a complete session on this one, on Jivan Mukti Viveka. To qualify.
Sriniji,
Yeah.
one quick question. So, in India, there are Veda Pathashalas and there are Gurukulas, right, which teach
Maybe I know one Gurukula where they start, there are three branches, and then they teach Vyakarana or Mimamsa or Nyaya.
Mhm.
Now, kids probably start the- at eighth grade or ninth grade out there, and then they study it for like 6 years, 7 years.
Mhm.
So the studying is one thing, but how do we know that at that age they are ready or not? That's the first thing. And then after studying all that, you told, right, that it's the seeker who decides. So, um, mm, I mean, it's not about the age, but the mental readiness
Yeah.
and studying all that. So, uh, how do if there is a person who is running that Gurukula, how does he decide that, hey, this person can do this and can carry on for next, say, 6, 7 years, or it's just a trial and error kind of thing? Let's
See,
there is a,
whether it is a Gurukula, I mean, many times people just see, they, I know this person, so they, he sent his kid, so therefore, I'll teach it anyways. And okay, take the money and then do that. But there are many. Currently, it's all money is the criteria, right? I mean, if you give enough donation, you get into top universities. If you don't pay well enough, or maybe you're at some other level of the university. Similarly, that procedure of selection is not is they have to standardize it somewhere. So they try to the only through either connections or how much benefits that you bring, so money. So that is how they're trying to decide. But here is the thing: they can make any kind of decision on that thing. You cannot
correct.
yeah, but it's talking about the phala or the actual outcome of that thing to that person, to the adhikari. And that adhikari, it's not the you should know who is the adhikari for what you are going to say, versus trying to say person A has to select person B, so what he should do. See, this question is about other people. The whole session today is about using this framework in such a way that are the you are the person going into a room, and how to qualify another person who is going to converse with you, or the assembly of people that you're going to be on stage and addressing the audience, and how do you qualify them. This framework is for that, rather than what should an institute A and how should they qualify B. It's very hard to make a judgment on that. I mean, they have to go through this procedure. There are, as long as there are objective, they use the objective criteria to qualify the students. That's fine. And I think, I mean, honestly, I believe that anybody who's actually teaching Vedanta, if they do not have the basic Sanskrit knowledge, they should not be doing it. Uh, Not because they don't have an experience. They might have great experience, but it needs a certain kind of objective verbal skills that are in the Shastra. It's not just the three things have to be aligned, it seems: Guru, Shastra, and Parampara. The Guru can have the experience, but if he's not following the Shastra or the Parampara, uh, then you don't know whether you're getting the right knowledge. And the person may be telling everything in the Shastra, but he is not actually practicing it, and the Parampara does not agree with it. Parampara is the lineage all the predecessors, right? Is that message consistent? Is that essence of the message consistent throughout, even though the form changes? If Guru, Shastra, and Parampara, if they do not align, then that is not considered a pramana. All three have to align. Did I answer the question?
Yes, yes, Chief. Yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, yes, an institute A may be, whatever is the institute, they may be qualifying and taking all the students, but Guru Shastra and Parampara, have they practiced the same methods of qualifying an adhikari? If they haven't done it, this person is probably doing his own method,
Right. And the Guru Shastra Parampara, all these things are aligned. It's a authentic Gurukula.
For the
Uh,
studies, yes, for the Shastric
yeah,
studies. Yeah,
right,
not for all the Vyavaharik studies, right? For
right,
for things like Vedanta and things that have been there for the Vyavahara, it's different. I mean, experts are enough. For Paramarthika levels, I think it's best to choose the. It is you have to align with the right methodology involved to avoid pitfalls. So
yeah,
here, for example, we don't claim to be gurus or anybody here, right? So in any of either you see it in any of these institutes or Sanskrit Bharati, or nobody is called a guru. So it's done it's done for a reason. See, they all those terms should be very carefully used.
right. And I think what you said is makes sense. Is Guru Shastra Parampara? That's one thing. The qualification of the institute or Pathshala, and then the person who is a seeker, who could be at any age, who could be at 50s, or who could be at 30s, or who could be at even
Oh
10
yeah,
years or 16 years of age. Now it will depend. So he might not be qualified at the first stage itself. He probably have to go through induction, and then going through that might qualify him, because uh, whatever he might have done in the past,
yeah,
uh, he might not have done anything related to this, but he's a seeker, and he wants to has that desire to learn, and
yes.
so he is ready to put that kind of effort,
Mhm.
and so he becomes qualified.
Yeah.
uh,
And
right,
and by the way, all these sessions are to qualify oneself first.
right, yeah, yeah.
Uh,
Self
I know
inquiry, self
yeah,
inquiry is the most important.
self
Yeah,
inquiry is where I mean the whole Adhikari Bheda is definitely to evaluate oneself and the other so that you are not in some trouble. To avoid the troubles or to avoid the dukkha, right? uh, because we many times we overqualify the other person or overqualify, not in the sense of vanity. I'm saying, right? We misjudge the mental disposition and the knowledge level of other people, and engaging with them in a way that is actually detrimental to our own well-being. So if you don't qualify the adhikari, your communication is going to suffer, and you will be the sufferer. So that's the message of the whole session. Okay, and so the next thing that the next session was somewhat it's about uh, it's aligning with communication and leadership at the same time. How our shastras are operating and the lenses are getting refined to view the world. So it's like using our own shastric lenses to see our life situations, starting with case studies. That is the approach we're taking? Is that all okay? Or you want anything? Do you have any better suggestions on this? Thank you, Dasenji. Okay. Anybody else? Oh, it's 8:36.
Yeah,
Okay. So hope.
sounds good. I think we have a good plan going forward that continues on this thread. So I think with this we can wrap up for today. Please connect with Sriniji if you have any questions, and if you want to discuss more, if you have suggestions for topics, all of that is perfectly sane and acceptable. So
Yeah.
no problem.
So
All
we'll,
right.
there is another topic called Sabha Maryada. It's all about communications and assembly, and it's a very practical one. We'll bring it up. We'll actually include the topic at some point. You all, I hope you'll find it very interesting because it's practical. So everything that we do is practical. So I just hope it is. It is something that you can actually implement and see. Thank you.
Okay. Let me close with the prayers, and then we can wrap up the recording. Just one second. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah, Sarve Santu Niramayaः, Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu, Ma Kaschid Dukkha Bhag Bhavet. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Guru Bhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Okay. Thank you, everyone. Have a great weekend. See you next week.
Thank you.